Been wanting to make this video for quite some time, hadn't had a chance to sit down and do it. At some point in time, I'd really like to make a thorough video discussing all the intricacies of Chivalry's combat. Initiative, footwork, spacing, timings, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, to do the kind of quality video that I like, where I'm talking about something and showing examples in the background in the meantime, it would probably take me 40 hours to do. So it's just not in the cards at this moment. As it stands, I haven't had any time to do this video, which is just going to be me talking on the video as I'm reviewing it. My goal here, though, is I think that by talking about what's going through my head in these duels, what I think is going through the enemy's head, what I've done right and what I've done wrong, will allow you guys to kind of see how combat works and just the different things that are involved in Chivalry's combat. With a goal that over time you'll be able to kind of see what you need to be looking for, analyzing on yourself as you're fighting so you can get better faster. Obviously, if you spend enough time playing this game, you're going to figure out the mechanics, but if you want to get better faster, you need to be able to be self-critical and figure out, hey, what went wrong here and how can I improve that? So my goal with this video is to kind of help you do that by talking about the different things you should be looking for so you can kind of self-analyze and go forward. So the first thing that happens with any fight is what I call the approach. It's where you're sizing up your opponent, their weapon, and basically just trying to get an idea of how you're going to fight them. In this case, I haven't fought this guy before. He's wounded. He's going to go ahead and acknowledge that he's ready to duel anyway. He's got the Messer, which is a strong weapon. It's going to be slower than my Warhammer, so I'm going to have a timing advantage if I can get into range. So he's going to try to stay further back out of range of my Warhammer, and I'm going to try to get up close. That way I can actually hit him with my Warhammer. So we've acknowledged that we're ready to go. He's going to start off an attack. Now, at the start here, we're in what's kind of neutral if you're familiar with fighting game territory, and one of you is going to try to gain the advantage, or the initiative, as Chivalry 2 calls it. Initiative gained by whoever hits. So whenever somebody lands a hit, they gain initiative, and that means they have a timing advantage. They're going to be able to swing faster than the person that's recovering from getting hit, which allows them to kind of keep the pressure on. Now, the person that's getting hit or just got hit will need to regain the initiative by either blocking, dodging, or interrupting the opponent that just successfully landed their hit. Now, we started off, he took a swung at me. I was going to let him go first, and I tried to counter it. Now, as I usually do, I have a tendency to whiff my counters, either by timing or my swings. I just get lazy with matching the swings, in which case I didn't match the swing type here, so I'm not going to be able to counter it. Now, if I had countered it successfully, it would have been great because I would not have lost any stamina. It typically takes opponents by surprise and gives you a big timing advantage, so it's a good thing to do, but obviously if you screw it up like I did right here, then you get messed up. So in this case, he took a swing at me. I lost initiative, and so he's going to try to attack me again, which case I blocked. Now, right here was a pretty good move by him. I'm sorry that my VLC is messing up on the quality of the video. Let me back up here a little bit. So I blocked, which means he lost initiative. Now, instead of keeping up the attack where he probably would have lost and I would have gotten a hit on him before, he takes a step back to try to reset to neutral. While he's doing this, he pulls a pretty clever trick. He is going to cue a stab where I can't really see it, and then he's going to turn around and then immediately come out with it. And so in this move, he pretty much just kind of skipped over the whole initiative normal flow and try to put me off guard. However, unfortunately for him, I was expecting that, and I blocked it, in which case, you can see right here, it was enough for me to get a hit off of him and kill him. If he had more health, he was at full health in the battle, that would have kept going. Unfortunately, like I said, he was pretty wounded, so that ended it right there. If you're wondering how I got through his guard, what I did is I ended up feinting, and so he was expecting an attack. I feinted it, and so it kind of stopped it, and so he dropped his guard, and then I hit him. Typically, the more skilled the player, the more likely they are to fall for feints, but they're also going to be kind of watching for that, whereas lower level players, they're just going to try to interrupt you. So it's one of those things you got to be judicious about when you feint. Now, in this case, we're approaching this guy for a duel. I fought him before. He's really quite quick with this longsword. Actually, I guess he's using the Messer. So he knows how to take full advantage of this weapon. He's quite good. He's been bullying most of this lobby. Again, I'm going to need to get up in his face with my Warhammer and interrupt him. Otherwise, he's going to walk all over me. So he's letting me know he's fully healed. He took a swing at me. I blocked. So he initially had, well, I guess he was in neutral. But by blocking, I now have initiative. So I respond, and I feint to try to get around his guard. But he effectively sidesteps. So this was a really good play by him. Footwork is probably the most important thing in this game. It's the first thing that you lose if you step away from the game for much time. But it's the most important thing. Good footwork will always keep you in range with your weapon and out of the range of the enemy, or at least just in control of the battle. So it's very important to learn. As you can see right here, he effectively dodged my swing, and so now I'm in recovery phase with mine, and he has a timing advantage because he's about to be able to swing with his sword and basically get a hit on me. So I couldn't recover in time, so he got a swing. Now he's got advantage, and now he's going to keep pushing the attack. However, I block it, and then I'm going to throw in a mix-up. So right here, I do what's called a jab. The jab is intentionally designed to allow you to regain initiative by interrupting the opponent's attack. It's supposed to be really fast. Sometimes the hit registry is not super good with it, but the great thing about jab is nobody really expects it, and it always throws people off. It's a good way to get in their head as a mind game. Even if you don't actually successful interrupting an opponent with it, a lot of times it's enough to kind of throw off their rhythm and just mess with their head. In this case, I blocked and I regained initiative, but he continued to decide to try to swing anyway and keep the pressure on me. I threw in a jab, which you can see was a successful jab. It hit him and interrupted his swing and gave me initiative. And as you're going to see here, it's going to throw off his momentum and rhythm. So right here, he was kind of recoiling from the jab. Like I said, it's really good about getting in their head. I got a good solid hit on him. And then I come in here. He tries to duck out of the way, and I continue to put up the pressure on him, and I get another hit on him, and that's the end of the duel. And now we're going to do a slow motion recap of this fight. He starts off, he's going to swing at me to try to gain initiative, but I block it, which gives me initiative back. I return the favor, but he sidesteps, in which case he gets the timing advantage. He starts to swing and gets a hit off on me. I can't recover from it in time. He comes back trying to keep up the pressure, but I block it, which gives me the initiative back. He tries to continue to attack me, but I get a jab, which completely throws off his game, allows me to get a heavy attack off on him, which really hurts, and then he tries to back up, but doesn't get quite out of range, and I get the finishing hit on him. So you can see how quickly these fights can go. The great thing is the way that Chivalry 2's combat goes, you can typically make a couple of mistakes in a fight and still be in the game, whereas opposed to like Chivalry 1 or other games of this type where a single mistake will cost you the game. Okay, so we're going to have another rematch versus Bacon here. Again, we kind of established he's a really good player. He knows his footwork really well. He's got a faster weapon this time, so let's see what happens. He comes off. Again, I try to get ahead of him with my attack, but I don't. I get a jab off, which you can see is really good for throwing him off. I got a free hit pretty much after that jab, but he ends up getting the final kill on me. So let's go back and step through that in slow motion. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I jump down. We're going to start off, slow it down here at half speed. He's going to take a stab at me, and I tried to make a swing from the left-hand side, which is one of my favorite tricks. Typically, players will try to run to your left, I guess their left too, and get a hit swing off of you, because if you slash, it will typically start from the right-hand side. In this case, I use my alt slash to try to get from the left-hand side with a heavy attack, and that usually catches most players and gives you a free hit. In this case, he was kind of trying to, he saw that coming and accelerated his attack to hit me a little bit before I hit mine, which interrupted me and gave him an initiative advantage. So I've got to go on the defensive here. So I block his attack, and then as a mix-up, I hit him with a jab. So you can kind of see he wasn't expecting that, and again, it's just so good about getting in their heads. I'm able to throw up a heavy attack. Now, if you saw that, one of the great things about heavy attacks in this game, and part of the reason they introduced held parry, is that you can switch up your time by holding down a heavy attack. So the heavy attack obviously does more damage, but the really great thing about the heavy attacks is they throw up the timing. So in this case, he threw up his block, and it was a really well-timed block, but because I held down the heavy attack, he dropped it because he was like, okay, I guess he's not going to attack, and that allowed me to get past this guard. So one thing you should be thinking about, if you are, ideally you don't want to be like me and block too early, because then you're holding up your block and you lose a lot of stamina. However, if you are seeing that attack's coming and you put up your block and it hasn't come yet, just keep holding it up until they hit it. Otherwise, that'll happen to you. So I get a hit up on him, and then I try to continue my momentum and get back up on him, but he steps out of range. Good footwork here. I block to get the initiative back, and he returns. So this is kind of one of those things where I was talking about how the initiative system kind of works. In this case, I actually had initiative, so I should have been able to get back on him. What happened here is he's using the one-handed sword, and it's really kind of wickedly fast. It's got pretty good range. It's a little overtuned right now, and so he was effectively able to interrupt the normal flow of initiative. I didn't get caught enough hit stun on him, and so he was able to interrupt me with a little bit faster weapon, which was a good play on his part. He kind of spaced his way out of it and then snuck his attack in, and he got me. So that was a good play on his end. All right. So generally, in order of preference, the easiest thing to do is blocking. So if somebody's attacking you, you block. It's the easiest thing to do. It's not going to give you the most benefit. You're going to lose stamina. On the flip side, if you dodging is kind of risky, and it only puts you back into neutral unless you are able to dodge closely, and then swing, which kind of gives you a speed advantage. And then interrupting is typically the best way because you not only damage them, but it's just the quickest way. It's kind of the best way to damage and regain initiative at the same time. So I switched to one-handed spear because one-handed spear is kind of broken in duels right now. I kind of suck with it, as you can see. I don't really like it, even though it's really hard for the opponents to read. I don't really know what's going on with this duel. I don't know why he threw his weapon. I don't know if he thought he had another. But anyway, he's running around trying to grab a sword, and I should be hitting him with all these, and I'm not. It's just kind of nothing really worth talking about there, just because it's kind of a sad show by both of us. All right, I'm trying to remember who I go fight next. I think, yeah, I guess we'll find out. Let me skip ahead a little bit here. Okay, so this guy, yeah. So this is a guy, I can't remember if I remember fighting him in this game or the one before, but he's quite a good player. He's also using the Messer. And as you're going to see, he's got really good footwork and spacing, and he's got a lot of advanced tricks up his sleeve. So he's going to come at me, and we'll see what happens. He's going to start off by running away, which you might think is kind of weird. He's kind of telling me he's ready to go, but then he runs away. He was trying to bait me into following him, and so he could do kind of his 360 slash. I wasn't really having it. You can see here that he kind of outranged. I thought I was out of range, but it wasn't, so I did a last-minute block. We're kind of going back and forth, switching up strokes, trying to interrupt each other. Both of us are kind of playing a little bit cautiously, but trying to take advantage of things as we are. He's going to have a hard disadvantage trying to read this one-handed spear just because it's really hard to read. I get him with a jab. He comes in with a pretty good gambled kick right there and gets a free hit on me. Comes in right there. I try to get a kick, and he doesn't let me have it. He tries to kick me again, and I don't let him hit my guard, and so that ends the fight. So we'll go back through and go that in slow motion as well, because there's a lot to dissect in this particular fight. Okay. So he advances forward to try to get me. I'm out of range, so I retort. He blocks it and riposts. Now, this is an example of how dodging can be risky. In this case, I dodged backwards, hoping that I'd have enough range to stay out of his way, and turns out that if I hadn't blocked at this last second, I would have gotten hit. So dodges are very useful about getting the timing advantage if you manage to get out of range or just out of the direction of the swing. But in this case, I still had to fall back to my block, which ended up causing me a lot of stamina loss right at the start. One thing I should note is this indication right here tells me how much stamina I have left. So you can see it down here, but you can also see it up here. When you attack your opponent, you'll actually see a sword and their stamina, which can help you gauge the relative stamina of both you and your opponent. Okay, so he's going to come back and try to attack me. I do what's called an acceleration right here. So the tutorial kind of shows you how to do this, but basically your swing goes in an arc. So in this case, from left to the right. If I was to keep looking forward at this, what would happen is my swing would start over here and I'd have some travel time to get over to about the middle right here. And had I done that, because his swing was already had started, I would have gotten hit before I hit him. So what I did is, you kind of saw, I actually turned to the right, which meant that the left side of the swing that had started was actually close up to him and hit, and that interrupted his attack and actually saved me from getting hit here. So it's a very useful thing to do. You can also decelerate attacks, so if they're holding up their parry, you can actually turn the opposite way and slow down your attack. It's not nearly as useful in this game as in previous titles, but it is still something you can do. So I've got initiative, so I'll come back and miss my attack. He's kind of just exchanging back and forth. He blocked right here and is returning the favor. It blocks right here. I'm going to come back in here, and I don't really know how that stab came through and beat him, but I did. I guess I got it a little bit before he did. I tried to follow it up with a kick because I thought he was going to panic block it, but he didn't. He just backed up. It's going to be really hard for you not to try to block a kick. If you see it coming, just like any other attack, you want to instinctively block it. But if you see one coming and you have your block up, just immediately click to try to attack so that you don't get kicked and stunned for a free hit. So he's kind of backing up to try to reset. He comes in, I step back just enough so I'm out of range, and then I come up and stab him to punish him for that. So that was a good footwork on my part. He comes in and swings right here, and I mess up. The bad thing about doing a feint is that if your enemy decides to commit to their attack, then you're wide open, which was the case here. He dodges this right here to try to throw me off. I end up following him, but that was a pretty clever move on his part. I sneak a jab in right here because I saw that he was going to attack me. I kind of figured he'd do that after his dodge, and sure enough, he did. So I got a little bit of an advantage right here on timing and came up with a heavy attack, but he recovers and blocks. This is a good move right here. He realized that I have a tendency to always block as soon as I land a successful hit, and so he just sneaks a kick in there to break my guard and get a free follow-up shot. I try to dodge on the swing, but it doesn't quite work. Comes up, he's using his initiative advantage to come up and hit me again. Manages to hit only my block. I return the favor and I try to gamble a kick. He sees it coming, I think, and drops his guard just in time, but he doesn't actually capitalize on it, which allows me to kind of follow up again. Usually, you would have just swing and he would have gotten a free hit on me. It might have actually killed me in this instance, so I got kind of fortunate there. I saw a kick coming right here and actually kind of returned the favor. So I dropped my kick right at the last, or sorry, I dropped my guard as his kick was coming in at the last second, which allowed me to kind of just get pushed back a little bit and stab him, finishing the fight. Skipping ahead to the next fight, it's going to be a one-handed spear versus one-handed spear. It's kind of a mirror match, except for the fact I'm a knight, so I have more health, and they've got a little bit better dodge. Going back and forth here, you can kind of see why the one-handed spear is getting reworked because the animations are kind of screwy. Taking a break right there to get rid of a shield to kind of make it more even. Basically, both of us are kind of doing a lot of feints here, so trying to use the weird animations of the spear to get an advantage. One thing that you can kind of notice right here, I'm going to rewind just a second, is like I was talking about earlier with the stamina. So I came in here with a heavy attack, and I like doing heavy attacks too because they punish the stamina. Right here, this indicates how much stamina she has left, and you can see she's got almost none, which means that if I can get in and get another heavy attack on her without her regaining too much stamina, then I can break her guard and pretty much be able to finish her off. So what you're seeing me do here is actually trying to break her guard. Unfortunately, she got a good hit on me, and I missed that attack right there, so she got her stamina back. Not really sure how that got past her guard. I kind of drugged the stab a little bit, but I don't know if she just dropped her guard or what exactly happened there. I was kind of expecting that not to hit, but it worked. So we'll go back real quick and do a slow motion recap of this. So she comes up with the first attack. I feint, which was a dumb idea because she did not and just went for the stab. I get a riposte off and then feint again. I have a bad tendency to auto feint a little bit more than I intend to. She destroys my shield that was already kind of beat up from previous fights and kindly decides to ditch her shield to make things a little bit more fair. So that's, yeah, she's just tossing it right there. It's going to come in and go for a stab, which I see coming. I should have countered that. I didn't. I decided to swing up with a heavy attack, but I miss it. Kind of get the instinct she's going to swing low like that. I don't really know how to explain that other than that it ended up working. Again, we're both trying to use the weird animations here, which my feint ends up doing. She gets the block here. I noticed that her stamina is really low because of that heavy attack, so I decided I'm going to punish her for it. She gets a good hit right there, which I had to block, so right now she's recovered a lot of stamina. I try to get around her guard, but I don't manage it. She comes around the side with the overhead, and then I do the stab drag. And I think what's going on right there is just that she either drops her guard, it's hard to tell, or that just the active window on that stab, I was able to go start from the left and pull it over to the right, kind of like it shows in the tutorial, and that might have gotten around her guard. All right, skipping ahead to the next fight here, you can kind of see how sometimes the weapon matchup can really work against you. In this case, this guy is abusing the very fast one-handed sword and just getting up in my face to where I cannot use any of the abilities, strengths of my one-handed spear, and he can take full advantage of the strengths of his particular setup. And I'm just really just trying to stay alive here as he gets up in my face. I got a couple good hits up in here, but most of the time he's just up in my face, and I just cannot get through his guard. My dodge here at the end just doesn't cut quite out of his way like I hope, and I get knocked out. So we'll go back through that in slow motion. All right, let me go back here a little bit more. All right, so ideally what I would be doing is keeping him at range, out of the range of his sword and in the range of my spear. Unfortunately, he gets in immediately and then just starts going really aggressive. Players like this, I have even though I'm kind of this player on the other side, I don't actually play well against these guys because I'm a little bit more technical and methodical in my strikes. And so when they just swing wildly like this, just trying to get initiative by interrupting, I kind of struggle. There's a small subtle thing you might have missed here. He immediately tries to go for a kick right after I do. So you can see right here, he starts his kick, and then he actually feints it, which I'm not exactly sure why he did that. I think it's because he saw me drop my guard. It's hard to tell. Gets up in there in my face, and again, it's draining a lot of my stamina, so I jab to get a little bit of stamina back, and then he sneaks a kick in, knowing that I'm going to instinctively block it, which works. I try to throw a kick in there thinking that he might actually stop and block at some point in time, but he doesn't. He just goes straight aggro. And again, kind of, I'm just trying to get through his guard, and I can't because he's so fast and up in my face. I get a jab in, which kind of helps reset things, and he comes in and I stab him, which was a good play on my part. I really should have kept doing that. Instead, I ate his kick again and then let him get up in my face. So right here is at the end of the fight. I decide I'm going to dodge sideways, and if this works, then I would be able to get a pretty much a free hit on him, and it would kind of turn things around. Unfortunately, I don't know. Yeah, he just ended up following me. That thing has wicked speed and range, and so he knocks me out. Brings up a good point about dueling, especially because this is a melee game and just the competitive nature of duels and fighting in general. You might start getting tilted if you're losing a lot against an opponent, and contrarily, if you're beating some people a lot, people have a tendency to get kind of elitist and cocky. And it's important to remember that just because you might be doing well in this instance, a different day, it might turn this thing around completely. So two evenly matched players, one might do really well one day and one might not do so well the next day. And just something as simple as a weapon matchup might make all the difference in the world. I'm pretty well convinced if I had any other weapon, I might have actually really been able to beat this guy in this particular fight right here. But because I'm playing with the weapon I'm not really used to, and I obviously wasn't using its strengths like I should be, I ended up just getting destroyed. So just keep that in mind when you're dueling. If you're having a hard time against somebody, think about switching up your weapons, which is exactly what I do here. I'm switching to something that I'm a lot more familiar with, a lot more comfortable with, and we're going to see how that turns out for me as we go up fight the next guy. In this case, the pole hammer has a lot of reach and it hits really hard, which I really like. Makes it a lot easier for me. This is a good player. I hadn't really played him before, but I've been watching him duel other people earlier on. He's got really good technical skill, pretty methodical in the way he plays, got good footwork. So let's see what happens. Comes in, I accidentally mess up. I didn't mean to stab him while I was trying to do my middle mouse, and so I'm just kind of explaining to him, hey, sorry about that. All right, so now we're ready to fight. He's going to come in and stab. I feint, which ended up getting past his guard, and the jab. He comes in. I thought I was out of range there, which is why I didn't block it. I come in. He does a good feint right here, and you can kind of see what I was talking about, where you just want to immediately hold your parry if you end up missing. So I guess we'll go ahead and rewind this a little bit, because this one happened quite fast. Comes in with a stab, which it looks like it was a drag. I block it, and I come down with immediate hit, and it works. I throw in a jab to try to mix him up. Like I said, this player is a little bit more skilled, so he is not falling for it, doesn't really get in his head. He swings. I thought I was out of range, but I wasn't, and so I get hit. He comes to try to follow up and do the same thing again, but I use the better range of my pole hammer to come in, but I didn't get in quite quick enough, and so he blocked it. Comes up in here and he feints, which if I had just done a quick block and saved my stamina, I would have actually missed the block and I would have gotten hit. But in my case, my bad habit of holding my parry up too long came in my benefit as I held it up for the feint and blocked it. Then I came up with what is one of my favorite tricks, especially I used to use this a lot in Mirage. It doesn't work quite so well in this game, but obviously it still works. But what I did is I had a very slow attack coming in, and I went all the way down to his feet, and that's when I hit him. So if he'd been holding up his block there, he probably would have, he might have blocked it, he might have not. A lot of times it'll actually go past the block. But in this case, he was holding it up his block and kept thinking he was going to get hit. And then ended up dropping it right here at the end because he didn't realize that I was dragging it and still had an active hitbox. And I got his feet and knocked him out. This next fight is a fun one to watch. It's pretty informative for a number of reasons. We have a very similar play style, and we're using very similar weapons. He's using the War Club, which is faster than my pole hammer. It has about the same range. Does less damage to compensate, obviously. But he plays very similar to me. which makes for very interesting exchanges. So let's see what happens. He's going to start off. I'm going to swing and I'm going to whiff, and he's going to swing and he's going to whiff. We both good footwork on our parts, keep us out of range. I come over with a heavy overhead, which he does not expect. He does try to accelerate and get a good hit on me, but he doesn't quite make it. I come in with another heavy overhead. I get out of his way. He gets out of my way. Good dodging on both of our parts there. Comes in with another acceleration to try to get me. Does not see my stab. Does get ahead of me here with my acceleration, and then doesn't see my heavy overhead and eats it at the end here. From the top in slow motion, I'm going to start off with my little favorite left alt swing, and I did get out of range, but then he is also outranged. Footwork on our parts to keep us safe. He comes in, and I get him with my heavy overhead. I think this was a timing thing. He wasn't really thinking I was going to hold it for that long and doesn't really see it. It looks like he's kind of distracted looking. I don't know what he was thinking here. I come in and I try to keep up momentum by dragging a stab on him, but he is ready for it with a good block, and then immediately comes in with a very quick acceleration. That was a good play by him. I think he would have gotten a lot of people with this. Unfortunately for him, I have a tendency to block way too early, and so I was ready for that. So pretty much he used the riposte timer, speed boost he gets from riposting, along with a really heavy acceleration. You can kind of see he's 90 degrees perpendicular to me. So as soon as that his weapon release from wind up into the actual release phase, he was able to hit me, but I blocked it. So unfortunate for him. I come in with a feint accidentally. Again, I have a really bad tendency to auto feint. I've played this game for about a year and still have not gotten used to that mechanic. So I accidentally feint, and it cost me. He is a really good jab right there to try to regain initiative, which he does. He doesn't really get to follow up on it because I'm ready for it. I come in with a heavy attack, or actually not a heavy attack, just a regular attack. He's kind of low on stamina. I'm really trying to break his guard here. I get out of range of his weapon when I notice that he's going to be retorting, and he does the same. Both good dodges on both of our parts here. He's still out of range, which was really good by him. As soon as he saw that he was safe, he started coming forward, which is why I had to block this one in order to not get hit. I come in with a stab, and I think he didn't see this. Kind of doesn't. I don't think he saw this coming. So you kind of notice it came from the left-hand side, and the way I was looking over this direction, he probably didn't really see that I was winding up the stab, and so he thought he was safe coming in, and then I drug it onto him, and that's why he ate that one, I believe. It could just be bad timing on his part. I come in and try to take advantage of the timing, the stab, him recovering, and so I accelerate a overhead. That's why I looked down. Unfortunately, he used his speed advantage to not let me do that, interrupted me. Came up with another accelerated attack, and then I think he was charging. He was getting ready to swing again, thinking he was going to interrupt me, but I was following up on him with that overhead, and I took him out. So really good plays on his part and my part. It looked like I trashed him right here, but it was, really, honestly, he played really well, and he's going to rematch me 2 other times, and he's going to actually beat me once pretty soundly. I'm going to have a rematch against this one-handed spear lady with my pole hammer. Let's see how I fare with a weapon a little bit more comfortable with. I come in with my try to get a heavy attack, but she interrupts it with a stab off the start. I get a good counter off here. She tries to trick me with a little spin there, which I don't fall for, and then I punish. We both kind of miss out of range here, and then she eats my overhead for the loss. Let's go back in slow motion and see what happens here. All right. So I'm going to try my little left-hand stroke, which would have worked, but her stab was a little bit faster, so she gets initiative and takes advantage. I riposte. She blocks it and then comes up with another attack. I counter it successfully here, but I'm kind of out of range. Pretty good footwork on her part, and I think she's trying to bait me in here, but I'm kind of ready for it, so by the time she spins around, I've blocked it. I came in with a heavy attack, and I think she was trying to run away from it, and I think she thought she could get out of range, but she didn't, so she took quite a bit of a health loss right there. She's going to come forward and try to get me. She has to stop because she sees my stab coming in, which causes her to miss hers. And then I can't tell if she was still in the recovery phase, and that's why she couldn't shield in time, or she just really didn't see it coming. Regardless, either way, she didn't have her guard up and ended up taking my overhead to the head, which resulted in her death pretty soundly. Next up is a guy I haven't fought before. I get the impression that he's a newer player, so I'm going to try to bully him a little bit, and we'll see how that goes. He comes in with a stab. I get to put his face a jab to kind of throw off his mind, just getting his head a little bit, but he doesn't allow it to bother him at all. Pretty good recovery on him, and we start doing a little bit of trading back and forth with our hits. He gets a couple good hits on me and gets my stamina down really low, and then I take him out with a kick. So this was a good example of how different players, you might be you might fare better against certain players just because of the way you play versus the way they play. Your strengths might actually go exacerbate their weaknesses and vice versa. So I'm going to go up here. He's going to try to stab me. And I'm going to do a big switch up right here and get up in his face, which you wouldn't normally do with a long range weapon. So I get up in there, jab, and you can see he was completely not expecting it. But he blocks my next attack. He didn't let it result in a loss of composure. He just was ready for the next attack, which is exactly what you want to do here. So that was a good play by him. I managed to pull off a counter, which he blocks really well. So that's a good thing here. Again, I'm pulling off some more aggressive maneuvers, and he's got a really good defense here. I'm going to riposte, and unfortunately for him, he tried a jab here, which was actually a good play. The jab, sometimes the hitbox is not really what it should be, and you can kind of see he whiffed it. It's hard to tell what he was looking. I don't know if my good footwork ended up costing him the jab, or if it was he just got screwed over by the hit registry. But it was a good play by him. If it had hit, that would have given him the advantage, but in this case he missed, and so I was able to punish it with an attack. I come in with a heavy attack. Oh, he holds up his parry. You can see I drained up most of his stamina here, so at this point in time I'm really going to try to take advantage of that and knock this weapon out of his hand. Unfortunately for me, I end up trying to charge his heavy attack, and I don't accelerate in time, and he gets a hit on, and so he's going to get a lot of his stamina back. And you can see right here, just in the matter of 2 or 3 hits, my stamina is almost gone, and his is back up. So I'm going to come up with a heavy attack again, trying to do knock his head up and out of his hand, and I just don't manage it. So you can see right here my stamina is really low, and so I'm at a do or die point. I either need to get a hit on him, or I'm going to get my weapon knocked out of my hand and be disabled. So I do a kind of a risky gamble. I've noticed that every time that I've tried to attack him, he's put up a block, and so I figure I can throw in a kick right here and knock his guard down, which sure enough, it pays off. My kick breaks his guard, and I'm able to come down here. He does a last minute dodge, which was really good. Had he gone to the left, I would have not hit him, I don't think, but in this case, well, I guess my left, his right. In this case, he goes to my right, his left, and unfortunately, I'm able to follow him down with my swing and knock him out. Good plays on his part. He did a great job keeping his composure. Unfortunately, he just was not able to last long enough to get that last hit in on me. Next up is a guy with the Executioner's Axe, which is unfortunate for him because it's so slow and he's going to be struggling with it all match. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to come in with a stab and a drag. I don't really think I should have gotten that here. Not sure what's going on with the hit registry there, but you can kind of see I was kind of clearly off target. But I get the hit anyway. So he comes in, tries to come in with, I think, a heavy attack. I feint, and he falls for it. That little bit of switch over to a different angle was enough to get a hit up on him. He's going to come in and try to get me with his, I think it was a stab, but because it's so slow, I end up getting him with a jab interrupt and then finishing him off with a stab. So, considering the weapon he was using, I'm not really surprised in this result. It doesn't really say anything about his skill other than the fact that the Executioner's Axe is molassously slow. All right, so I'm going to come in, I'm going to try to stab him, and it works, which I'm not really sure that I should have gotten credit for on that. I dragged it, but that was clearly off target. He comes in with a heavy attack. I hold my parry up, and then my feint, he falls for it. He thinks he could get a swing in, and then he gets hit. I'm going to come in, actually, sorry, he's going to come in now and try to hit me with the stab. In that whole very long windup time, I get him with a jab, which throws him off. He tries to dodge out of range and just can't get out of range. Next up is it's Free Smoke again. This guy's pretty good. He's got a lot of good footwork and a lot of good just maneuvers and control over his weapon. So we have a lot of good back and forth right here. I'm using my range to kind of stay out of the way of his kicks, but then he gets up in my face, and you can see I start struggling with it. A really good counter by him right there. He's got a big advantage on me, so I have to sneak in a alt attack. I get a good kick on him here, and that's what finishes the battle. So you can see he was kind of really up in my face and bullying me for a lot of that fight, and I was able to just recover with a few good hits and take advantage. I'm going to back up here and we'll go in slow motion right here. Okay, I get out of range and come up with a stab, which he blocks just in time. He comes in here, and this is one of the reasons I like ranged weapons, is because I have a tendency to try to block kicks, which is obviously not good. So in this case, me using the range to my advantage, his kick whiffed. I should have punished that with an attack, but I didn't. In the meantime, he gets up in my face and then accelerates an attack in my face. I miss my jab, kind of similar like we saw last time, and he gets another hit on me. I riposte to try to get back into initiative and feint into a stab, which probably would have worked against a lot of guys, but this he was ready with a counter. This was a really good counter. I was actually kind of surprised by it, and yeah, it was a really good counter. I managed to block it just in time. He comes in with a swing, just immediately bullying me. Good plays here. I'm kind of on the ropes here. He's going to try to swing and just barely whiffs it, and I punish him with a left alt attack. And then he comes in with this hit right here, and I kind of gamble right here. I'm thinking, oh, he's probably going to block. Had he not blocked, this would have been game over for me. I would have lost this, but in this case, I got kind of lucky. He decided to block. I broke it up and then stabbed him and finished him off. So another really good fight with this guy. Lots of good technical skill on his end, and he's got pretty good mind games too. Unfortunately for him, I was able to take a few hits and then punish him with a lucky kick. All right, time for a rematch with Riley. Let's see what happens this time around. He's kind of feeling me out. I'm going to move in, and he does a great counter off the start and gets a good hit on me. Doesn't quite a range of my stab. I come in with the overhead, which he's kind of ready for, and he's ready for my feint into stab. He does eat that overhead again. Comes in with a counter again. Really good counters on his part, and his footwork's really quite impeccable here. Just getting right out of range. Unfortunately, he keeps eating my stabs. I don't know if he's just not reading them or not. It seems like he's having a hard time reading the stabs, which I don't blame him. I have a tendency to eat stabs too. All right, let's rewind and watch that in slow motion one more time. Hold on, how much further have we got to go? All right, here we go. So we're kind of feeling each other out. Neither of us really wants to make the first move. We know we have range, so we're just going to wait and see. He comes in with a good counter, waits for me to attack first. I come in. I should have countered that, but I didn't. I tried to feint into a stab, which did work on him. Like I said, I guess he's having trouble reading the stabs. I come in with a charged overhead and try to drag it to him. He blocks it and then comes in with his little bit accelerated counter, and that was pretty good. I blocked and riposte. Again, I feint into an overhead, which does end up working this time. Kind of that has historically worked against him in the past. I noticed his stamina's down, so I'm going to start trying to punish that with a heavy attack, which he's ready for with a counter. Good play on his end. Accelerates, but I block it. He's going to come in with another hit, and I guess I thought I was out of range. Obviously, I wasn't. I don't know why I didn't really block that. He comes in, and I'm just out of range, and then I punish him with a stab. Just one of those things where you're just barely on the edge, and then I think I drag that stab into him. I'm not really sure. I think he was dodging and still wasn't able to get his guard up, so he probably dodged, thought he had it, and then realized he didn't, but couldn't block in time. So another good match by him. He'll punish me next time around. Speaking of, here he is ready for his rematch. I don't blame him. I always like to go for a rematch too. He's going to come in, and he's ready for me this time. So right out of range, he does eat my stab again. That seems to be working pretty well against him. I try to get in a kick here just to swing things up, and he responds with a jab. Neither of us are really effective. Comes in, I feint, and he is ready for it. He's realized that I feint overhead way too much, just like that, and so he's going to punish me for it. And then he uses my own medicine against me and gets a good hit up on me. I'm trying to get him with a jab. I'm out of range. He's really bullying with me. I don't have much stamina, so I have to drop my guard. Yeah, you can see he's really bringing the beat down on me right here. And again, uses my own trick against me and beats me down. So you can see he's learned his lesson this time around. Good plays by him. So that's kind of what I was getting at earlier. Sometimes, it's just a matter of how the chips fall. Sometimes you might make a few more mistakes sooner than your opponents, and sometimes they might make a few more mistakes before you. So I'm going to go ahead and slow this down. I get him with the stab off the start. He wasn't quite ready for that. I don't blame him. That's usually how it goes for me. I'm just out of range of the kick. I don't think it would have worked anyway. He wasn't really going to block it. He tries to jab just to throw it off, and I punish with the hit. Again, he tries to jab here. I don't know if he thought I was going to get up in his face. I'm going to feint into an overhead, kind of out of bad habit. I just do this way too often, and you can see he's learned. After I've done that to him twice before, he's just ready for it. I come in with a swing, which he blocks, and then he's going to come in with his swing. I start blocking way too early, by the way. Going to come down with my overhead again, which he's ready for, and then he does the same trick on me. So that's kind of what it looks like to him every time I do that, and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't expecting to feint like that, and so I ate the hit. I did block this one, and then I tried to jab, which doesn't work. He gets out of the way. I block this right here, and I'm going to try to jab again, which also doesn't work. I'm really low on stamina right now. I've got to really figure something else up because I'm about to get my weapon disarmed. You can see I'm really dangerously low right here. He's just bringing up the pressure. I'm not really sure why he backed off, but he does. And he does again. he feints doing my trick against me, and I fall for it, just like he fell for it the previous 2 matches and knocks me out. So good fight by him. I was glad to see that he was able to punish me for my bad habits. This last duel is against a Vanguard Ambusher, and he's got a pretty big disadvantage here. It's not really a good class for head-on brawling. It's kind of like the Javelins and Axe Skirmisher from the Archer subclass. Just it doesn't have the stamina to go toe-to-toe with a heavier class like this. So I'm going to keep him at range, and he's going to try to harass me up close or at far with the knives, which he gets 2 hits on me that he really shouldn't have. But you can see I break his guard right here. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you guys, just kind of talking about stuff and kind of what was going through my head, and just kind of give you a brief introduction to the different mechanics in this game. If you found it useful, give me a comment and let me know what you liked and what you didn't like, so that way I can improve for future videos. And yeah, we'll go from there. If you guys like it, we'll continue, and if not, then we won't.